today. So I hope that you find this useful. And again, I want to thank Tracy and River for their time today. So with that, Tracy and River, I'm turning it over to you to start us in the workshop.
Great. Thank you so much, Amy. It's really a pleasure to be here to help out with this workshop. Welcome, ACE members. It's so great to see all of your faces. So we're going to be recording the workshop. So if there's anything that you miss or you want to go over later, or if you want to share it with a friend or colleague, you can do that as well. And my colleague, River Dagger-Stanley, she'll be moderating the chat. If you have any questions, when we're on a particular slide, if you have a question about that slide, feel free to put the question into the chat and either River or myself will answer it. But we'll also have a Q&A section afterward. So, you feel free to ask your questions then. So I'm looking at the poll. I see that we have kids in all age groups. So I tried to make it so that there's a little something for every grade. I see there's time management questions, questions about Google Classroom, math, overuse of technology. Okay, great. So I pretty much have all this stuff slated in our workshop. This is great. Nobody has a question about Google Meet, which I think is interesting. And most of you can figure things out, so that's great. All right, so let's get started. So, as Amy said, I'm Tracy Cummings McReel. I'm the administrator here at the ADP Center for Learning Technologies. And just like you, I have kids. I have two girls. One's in middle school and one is in high school. So you guys are in great company. I have been through the K-5 drill, so I know a lot about that. I really feel for all of you moms. Like, we have the brunt of the homeschooling on us. Even like I would say approximately 1 million moms have had to leave the workforce to do virtual learning at home with their kids, which is unfortunate. And then those of us that have our jobs, we're trying to navigate doing our job as well as helping our kids with virtual learning, and that's double the stress. So it takes a village, right? So we're here to support each other, and just remember to be patient with yourselves, because this is just not normal. I mean, I think we fall into the day-to-day and we just kind of get used to this environment. So just try to remember to be patient with yourselves. So my original virtual learning workshop, I geared it towards K-5 kids. And what I did was I interviewed teachers. I've interviewed a couple professors, and I've, talked to a few people that are tech experts. So hopefully I have a few tips in here that can help you. So let's move on. So I, I had to put this in here. So this is what we're told virtual learning looks like, right? I love this little girl at the bottom in the middle. She's like, she must be in first grade. She's got her headphones on and she's working independently by herself, right, to finish her homework. We have this mom on the right who has an infant on her lap and probably a kindergarten or first grader doing their work. And of course the dads, and the one girl, she's probably in third grade with her iPad and she's so happy. But let's be honest, this is not reality, right? This is reality, right? Everyone, the parents are frustrated, the kids are frustrated. Sometimes the kids are acting out because they've been in this environment for too long, because they want your attention. You're trying to get your work done. And I particularly love this picture of the woman biting the laptop, because technology can be frustrating sometimes. So let's see if we can figure out a few things to use it to our advantage. So let's talk about time management. The first app that I want to talk about is Multitimer. This is specifically for iOS, okay? But I also have one if you are an Android user. So what's interesting is when kids are younger, they're not very self-directed, right? Like, we need to tell them, okay, it's time to do this or time to do that. So when you use a timer, it helps with pacing. So it helps them become more self-directed. And then at the same time, the timer is the bad guy, which I love. And one of my friends told me this like a couple years ago, and like maybe when the kids were younger, and I didn't think it would work, but I'm telling you, it works. So what's great about Multitimer, if you look at the slide here, you could see that you could set multiple timers. So if your daughter needs to read for 30 minutes, you can put the timer on if she's younger. And maybe your son has to, go on a Google Meet and then do math problems. You could, and then maybe later you need to drop off your kid to practice. So you could set all these timers and you could set it and forget it, which is great. But you could also set the timer if you are saying, the first thing I think I want to say is that your child's needs precede their wants. So of course you need them to get their homework done before they go on, to have some free time on their computer or their Switch or whatever. So then you'll set the timer for an hour and say, look, you finished your math homework, you can go on your Switch for an hour. So you set the timer, and then when the timer goes off, you can say, well, the timer went off, your time is up. And I really did not think that that would work, but it does. Sometimes when the kids transition when they're younger, they have like a 2-minute meltdown, but then they go right out and just do whatever, they end up doing something else. So here, just to show you what the Android version is, whoops, it's OK Timer. The interface is a little bit different, but it basically does the same thing. So I think the timer is a really good way to manage your children's time. When your kids are older, you can instruct them to use a timer if they're not very good with time management. So I think that is helpful. Oops. So the next slide here is block site. We all get distracted. You're supposed to be like going on to a Zoom call in 10 minutes, so you check Pinterest quick or your Facebook feed or something. So our kids also get distracted, right? Like maybe they're tempted while they're on their computer. I don't know how many of you have school issued Chromebooks or some other type of district issued laptop, or if, like, for example, we have district issued Chromebooks, but they're not very good. Like my daughter's spacebar doesn't work. So we actually use one of our computers here, but she can go on whatever website she wants. So you can use block site to block particular sites so they don't get distracted from doing their work. So you can block like social media, you can block games, you can block websites or YouTube. And what's great is it works across different devices. So you can have it on their phone and you can have it on their laptop. And like I said, you can block by category. I will say though, sometimes district issued websites have Chromebooks have different like blocking software, so you may not be able to utilize them. So just be mindful of that. But I think, or if you have an issue, like you could always contact the tech person at the school. So the next thing I want to talk about for a little bit is classroom dynamics. So the teacher's job in the classroom is the classroom manager, right? And for a lot of older teachers, especially in K-5, the virtual, like they're learning at this virtual, the virtual learning curve just like we are. So it could be difficult for them as well. And what happens is the parent becomes the manager, and we're not professional teachers. And it's funny, my one friend who's a teacher, she says, my daughter's a street angel, meaning that she has great manners and she's lovely at school. But when when our kids come home, they just, they're able to be themselves and they act out a lot of times, right? So one of the things that I wanted to mention, one of the counseling techniques that are used is HALT, which stands for hungry, angry, lonely, tired. And when our kids are acting out, I think one of the first things we just need to be mindful of is that, they might be hungry or angry or lonely or tired. I mean, angry, maybe they're more frustrated, but either way, it's important to be mindful so we understand why our children might be acting that way. And also, I check in with myself because sometimes I'm the one who's tired or hungry. Another thing I'd like to mention is be curious about your child's work strategies. And what I mean by that is, in your mind, you may feel like, look, my kid's got to go on, finish their work, and they're done by 12 o'clock. not every child works that way. Like I might want my child to go on and complete all their work by 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock or whatever. But I know that my younger daughter isn't like that. Like my younger daughter is the type of child that needs to take breaks. So she'll go on a Google Meet, and then she'll have like, she'll eat breakfast, and then she'll come back and go on her next meet, and then she'll like, do something with the dog for half an hour. But the bottom line is she gets all her work done. She just doesn't do it in the way that I would expect her to do it. Um, I mean, it's different if they're not able to get it done, but that's something for the next slide. But I think it's just important to be mindful of those things. And the other thing too, if you're able to create a designated space for your child. And what I mean by that is, like, maybe they sit in the dining room or in the living room or wherever to do their work, but you don't want them eating at the table, doing their work at the table, so that they spend most of the day at the kitchen table or maybe like in the living room. The other thing too is I've noticed, for example, with my older daughter, she was in the basement doing her schoolwork, and I walked down, she's in the middle of a Google Meet, and she's got her Switch against the screen, she's playing the Switch, and she's in the middle of a Google Meet. So I stopped that real fast. But I'm just saying, like, we need to be our kids need to have a designated space, and we have to like basically check in and see what they're up to. The other thing too, the younger kids will definitely need more actual support, but as our kids get older and they're more independent, they're going to need a little more emotional support. So the other thing too, it's important to keep close contact with your child's teachers. And what's interesting is your child's teachers actually want to hear from you. One of my friends who's a teacher from Roseland, she teaches library, and she says, I want to hear from teachers. I think it's, important that the teachers know, how your child's doing, as well as how you and your family are doing. If you have like someone that's a frontline worker in your family, um, it's really hard to be able to, both parents are working. This, especially when kids are younger, like K to 5, call the teacher, email the teacher and say, listen, my kid's really struggling. What's the most important thing for them to finish? Especially in these younger grades, like, don't feel like your child has to do every single thing. Um, I mean, it's important that they do the concepts, but you know, the content, but at the same rate though, like, we're in the middle of a pandemic still. This is not normal. Like even in college, they've given a lot of flexibility to students, and these are adults. So I think teachers would be flexible and mindful. So just remember that when it gets really difficult. So another thing I wanted to mention was have students collaborate on their homework. And this is really more for 4th grade and up, because even if you look at the collegiate environment, professors have students collaborate on projects in class and do different discussion posts where students actually learn from each other. And it actually enriches the class. And that's actually what happens also when children work together on their homework. They learn from each other. Um, Definitely, if you can, have the older siblings help the younger siblings, because it creates responsibility for them, and it also creates empathy, which I think is really helpful. And what I do is when I have my older daughter help my younger daughter, I either do something special for her. It doesn't, maybe I'll make a special dinner for her, or we'll do something special together, so that I'm relaying to her that I appreciate her doing this for me. So Google Suite and Zoom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about Google Classroom, and then I'm going to go into the actual Google Classroom and do a few things and answer any questions if you have it. So first, of course, if you have younger kids, I'm sure you guys have already done this, but have a list of your child's passwords printed out and near their desk, so if they get kicked out, they can just log back in. The other thing I wanted to mention is you can get an update about your son or daughter's performance, especially in middle school and high school, using the Guardian Summary. The only way that you can get the Guardian Summary email is to send a message to the teacher and say, I'd like the Guardian Summary email. and then they can put you on and you'll be receiving, and then they'll send you a link. And then what you can do is you can select if you want daily updates, and it will actually tell you if there's been a homework assignment, if there's been a missed assignment. So that way you can kind of keep track of what your children are doing. Of course, I think most districts have some type of grading platform. Like I know in my district, we use PowerSchool. I know there are other ones as well. Because I think what's happening is for my daughter in high school, they posted everything on the grading platform. But for my younger daughter who's in middle school, they posted everything in on the Google Classroom. And then at the very end of the marking period, uploaded it to the grading platform. So if you want to know what's going on with your kids' assignments, just definitely sign up for the Guardian Summary. And lastly, older kids should really know how to contact tech support. I think, some of the teachers and professors I spoke with, like, I think sometimes because parents are home and some parents are tend to be a little helicoptery, I guess. They do a lot of things for their kids where kids should be actually starting to do things for themselves. So I think it's important to just be mindful of when we want to do things for our kids, and as they get older, they should be starting to do them for themselves. Like I remember, this is when my older daughter was 6 years old, she was still asking me to help her get dressed. And what I realized was that's not good. So what I did was I said, you know what, in the morning you're going to get your breakfast. So I put the cereal and the bowls on the counter, and I put the milk in like a pitcher because it was too heavy for her, and I put it on a lower shelf in the refrigerator. And she would get up in the morning and she would help herself to cereal, and she'd be able to do it herself. So that's a way to help kids feel confident that they can do things themselves, and as they get older they should be able to do certain things themselves, like contact tech support. So I just wanted to mention that quick.
Tracy, real quick before you
Yeah,
move on,
sure.
there was a question that asked, the Guardian Summary comes from each class, or can they get a digest from all classes?
That's a good question. I want to say that there might be an option. I think there is an option to just get a weekly update. So that would include everything from every class for the week. But I will say that if your teachers, like especially in high school, are putting out multiple things a day, you're going to get an email at the end of the week with maybe 50 assignments in it. So I think it might be something that, if you did sign up for the daily update, you'll just get a little list of all the assignments that, were done. I have to check, and I'll be happy to check. I'm curious if you could maybe select just what was missed, which I think would probably be more helpful, because your child, when they're older, they're going to do their assignments, but you want to know if they missed something. And then you could just check in the grading platform to see what's going on. But we'll get into that now. So here is the Google Classroom. I'm going to, whoops. Okay, there we go. So this is my daughter's Google Classroom. So I'm going to move this toolbar. Okay. So as you can see over here, this is where your student signs in. So they can choose, obviously my other children are on here. This is a little fun fact. This is actually called a waffle. So when you click on it, this has everything in the Google Classroom. So it has Mail, it has Drive, it has Calendar, it's got Google Meet, so it's got everything in here. So here we are in the classroom. If you click over on the 3 bars over here, we can access classes where we are now. If we click on Calendar, we can see what assignments were created for this week. So and they're done by color. So each color is a different class. So these were the assignments created for my daughter this week thus far. You can actually use this to just look at a particular class. Like if I wanted to see if my daughter had Spanish homework, I could click here and see that her Spanish teacher did not assign anything yet. So I'm going to go back to the main view. So I'm going to choose one of her subjects. I'm going to pick her math class. So in this particular view of the course, it has the stream, the classwork, and the students in the class. So the stream is basically a place where your children or you could view their upcoming assignments. They can communicate with classmates. They can ask a teacher a question, and teachers can post like links to resources or videos or platforms, like if they want your child to do something like a Flipgrid or a quizzes or a Nearpod, they'll put the link in there and it'll go directly to there. So you can see what's upcoming here. There's another function here where you could click more, but I realized that it's the only one there. So so here in the stream, you could click over here. Oops. Okay, obviously I thought there was something in there. So here's all my daughter's assignments. So what I want to do is I'm going to click on classwork. So these will say, you know, when they're due. And when you go into view your work here, so this particular teacher gives my daughter a grade for her assignments. Not all teachers do, and that's why you need to view the grading platform. But if you click on it, you could see that my daughter used the Google Jamboard to do this, and the teacher made a comment. So that's where all the assignments live. And we'll go back to classes. I have some other things to show you with Google Classroom when we actually get to the Chrome extensions. I just was curious if anyone had any questions about Google Classroom and how to use it. There's the chat.
Hi, my name is Yonida Dervishi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, hi. Thank you so much to AC for putting together this workshop, and thank you, Tracy, for presenting it to us. I find it very helpful. I wish we would have had this 6 months ago when we all got thrown into this homeschooling or whatever we're calling it. I am curious if there's anything that I could maybe say to my kids' teachers. I have 2 children, and I find it so overwhelming between, you know, they're all using Google Classroom, but you're getting the kids get the emails, and I understand the Guardian summary may help, but I find that the work is listed in several places. So you have the stream, then you go to classwork, then you have the to-do list and the calendar. Is there a better way to streamline all these things? And again, my kids are younger, so you know, I understand for the older kids they're more independent, but I myself have a hard time finding if any information is missing and when it's due, type of thing.
Right. Well, you know what? That's a great question. I would say it also depends on the teacher. Like if your teacher is really tech savvy, I think he or she would organize it in a way. But if maybe the teacher is not completely sure, it might be harder to tease those out. Like, and I'm sure, like, you know, for your younger kids, they just have each subject here. So they'll have like math, they'll have writing, reading, science, social studies, right? Or maybe they have a few specials at the bottom.
Yes.
So, so you're saying that a lot of okay, so I will say that usually teachers will post things in the stream, and therefore you can ask the questions in the stream, right? Yeah. But the classwork should just be a list of just the classwork or the homework. Like the way this teacher divided it up, he put that there's classwork and then there's homework. He put it separately. And teachers can kind of make this their own to a degree. Right. So, you know, it might not be as organized. So you're right. But that but that's something like that you'd have to like discuss with the teacher. I'm going to definitely look into it for you because I'm curious myself.
Yes, you're right. So some teachers, the main teacher for my fourth grader will post, and I don't want to take up too much of everyone's time.
No, that's okay.
She will post things that are real classwork or homework in the classwork tab. Whereas other teachers, the special teachers, they're posting everything like in 3 different places, the same thing duplicated.
Yeah.
So it's just information overload with everything else that we're having to manage. Yeah.
Right. And I want to say there is something in here. Let me see. So you could see what assignments are missing.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's helpful.
But I do know that there's a place where you could see missing assignments. Oh, right here. So let's just go back and look at that quick. So when I go to my daughter's chemistry class and you go to the classwork stream, right, and you look at view your work, I can see if she has any missing assignments. So she had some assignment from October 19th that she didn't turn in. Now maybe that was something that, you know, she turned in differently, or maybe it's still missing. I mean, we did get her grades, so. But I'm just saying, like, you can look, or you can see if an assignment was returned. So maybe your son or daughter submitted the item but needs to fix something. I mean, that might not be the case for your fourth grader, but at least you know that it's in there, that you could look to see if an assignment is missing. So I'll just go back to classes. So I'll go back to the presentation. The next thing I wanted to talk about is Google Drive. I think you guys kind of pretty much know how Google Drive works. It's basically like a virtual filing cabinet, right? So it uses cloud storage to file. You know, you could share documents and you can sync documents. You can drag and drop files into the drive. You can upload a PDF or a Word doc. And all of these work best with the Chrome browser. So I just want to show you a couple things really quick in my drive. So this is my drive. Again, it's the same thing. Like, you can look over here to sign in. You have your waffle, your settings. So if you want to create something new, and if you guys are familiar with Microsoft Office, Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, it all functions like Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. There are some differences. Some things are better, but some things may not be as detailed, like especially for Excel. But most your kids will not be using like an extensive Excel spreadsheet. So here you can create a new document. These are where all your recently accessed documents. If you want to create a folder so that your children can be organized, I have created all of my folders here. If you left click in the corner, you can create a new folder. Or you could just create a new document. So obviously I've have all my work inside of my folders, so that you could do this with your kids. Or you could have them organize it depending on. It's funny because my older daughter, her teachers would call her a hot mess because she's like really a great student, but she's not very organized. So you can go on their drive and see if, you know, they're organized with their work. The other thing too, which I'm going to show you in a few minutes, is this one Chrome extension called Cami, which is really helpful. And I have my daughter also has a specific folder just for Cami, and I'll show you that in a couple minutes. So let's get back to the presentation. So Google Docs. I think the best thing about Google Docs and Google Slides, these are most of the ones that your kids are going to collaborate in groups on. What's great about the Google platform for this is kids collaborate in real time. All kids can work that are assigned for this particular document that's shared. They can work on it at the same time, which is great. Students can use, there's a lot of free slide templates out there if they need to look for a slide template. There's a lot of great Chrome extensions, and I want to show you the Explore function and voice to type. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. So I'm going to go to my drive, and I'm going to say I want to create a new document. So if I want to do an outline, for some reason, okay, there we go. This is just working very slowly, I'm sorry. Okay, so if your kid's doing an outline, I want to show you that. Can you see this little icon here in the lower right-hand corner called Explore? So when you use this in any of the documents, what happens is it will give you images to put inside your document. It has some research here that you can either look up or add. When this is a Google slide, I'll show you over here. You could click in the lower right hand corner, and what it does is it gives you different slide templates. So the Explore function is really helpful. The other thing that you can do that I really love with Google Slides, this is great for younger kids. It has in tools here, it has a voice typing. So if you click on voice typing, you'll have the little microphone over here. You click it to speak. And then I can just say, I don't know, the revolution, blah, 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 and it will type exactly what your child is saying. I think this is great for, here, I'm going to close this now. It's getting a little old. What's great about the text to talk is this is great for children that are younger and you know, aren't fast writers, but they need to get their thoughts down, because when they're little and they're learning to write and they have to think about what they want to write for, you know, maybe they're writing like a chapter, or they're writing fiction, or they're writing an instructional piece for writing, they can't get the words down on the paper fast enough. So if they use the Google Doc and they use the voice to text, they can easily get all their thoughts down on paper before they start writing. So I just wanted to share that with you as well. Google Meet, you guys all said you knew how to use it effectively, so I'm not really going to get into that much. Students should mute themselves. We know that it integrates well because it's part of the Google Suite. The only caveat is teachers can only start or host a meeting. And before, when I mentioned that kids should collaborate, a lot of the parents that I spoke to said, yeah, but the kids can't host a meet. But what you can do is either have kids call on FaceTime, or use WhatsApp, or use another thing that I really like called Messenger Kids. So it's part of the Facebook Messenger platform, but it's just for kids and it's controlled by the parent, which I think is helpful. So the last thing I just wanted to mention, just because of, like, you know, some things that have been happening, just be cognizant of what you're wearing. So if you, you know, come into the kitchen and your kid's sitting there and you're in your robe, just remember that they might be on a meet. So I just wanted to mention that. Some updates to Google Meet. You should have had an update about mid-October, so that you can see, your child can see everyone in the class, because before, without the grid extension, you weren't able to see everyone, but now you could see about 49 people with no extension. So that, I think, is helpful too. One of the caveats of Google Meet is that there has been a lot of issues with this visual effects for Google Meet. It allows kids to freeze frame themselves and not be present for class. So just be mindful of what types of extensions and whatnot that your kids have on their device, and just check in with them to make sure that they have what they need, and they're not, you know, like my daughter, on their Switch. So Zoom, I was wondering if anyone had any questions about Zoom.
Tracy, there's a question that asks,
Sure.
can teachers see when the kids have frozen their frame?
No, and that's why it's been a problem. I mean, they see the frozen frame, but what happens is, like, for some classrooms where there's, you know, 25, 27 children, the boxes are pretty small. So a lot of times what teachers will think that the person's frozen when they're just not even there. So I know some school districts have had to, you know, backtrack and try to either, you know, stop students from downloading certain things, or, you know, they've just been trying to address it and sending, you know, pushing out email notifications to parents to be mindful of it. But I just wanted to share it with you. I mean, a lot of kids aren't doing it, but they're, but kids are smart. You know, they find a way to get out of things. So I hope that answered your question.
Tracy, there's one more question that asks for tips for making a first grader independent to use Zoom on their own.
You know what? It's interesting because I will say Zoom is more difficult to use than Google Meet, because usually the Zoom link is provided in an email. So I will say that, I mean, I think it also depends on your child. Some children are just, I mean, kids in general are pretty tech savvy. I'm just trying to think of, you know, I would say you could print things out. Like you could make like a sheet for them, or I'd be more than happy to chat with you like after or another time to maybe, you know, figure something out so that maybe you could put some printouts for them. So here with Zoom, what I wanted to show you is that one of the most important things is that you have the most current update. So for me, I have an Apple device. So in the upper right left-hand corner, you would look at Zoom US and check for updates. It's very similar for like if you have a PC, but definitely make sure that you're updated, because sometimes what happens with the updates, and Zoom does update all the time, you if you don't have all the updates, you might not have all the features, and if the teacher is utilizing those features, your child won't be able to access them. So just make sure you check for updates. The other issue, I think, is one of the biggest issues with Zoom is that if your child goes from a Google Meet and then goes onto a Zoom call, sometimes there's an issue with the microphone. So as you can see here in the lower left-hand corner, there's a caret next to the mute button. So you would click on that. I can't show you since I'm hosting the call, so I put a copy of the toolbar here. So you click on the caret, and when the caret pops up, you should choose the built-in microphone and the speaker for the built-in output. So that way it should work. And then for the video, there's the little caret here next to video, and this tab will come up, and it should be the FaceTime camera. And if you didn't know, you can touch up your appearance on Zoom, which is very nice. But that's how, you know, once they're in the Meet, they should be okay. There is the share screen function, but that's something that the teacher needs to, you know, give them permission for, because there's been Zoom bombing and whatnot. Teachers, I know for myself, when I schedule a Zoom meeting, I have a lot of different protocol in place so that someone can't come into my meeting. Like I don't allow screen sharing unless someone wants to present and I know who's presenting. So there's a lot of different facets to that. So my guess is when your child is in the Zoom call, they just are really going to need to get on it. I think one of the only other features that teachers might ask students to use is annotation. And it's basically at the bottom of the screen, there'll be like I can allow students to annotate, and then in the upper, like at the toolbar toward the top, there should be like a little button that says annotate. Let me see if I can allow you guys to do that. Hold on. So if I say, hold on, like I can annotate. Oops. Or maybe not. My toolbar's not coming up. It's being finicky. Here we go. So with annotate, like your child can draw on screen. But I really don't think teachers are doing that particularly. I'd be interested to know if they are. But in any event, I hope I answered some of your question. If I haven't, like I said, please feel free to reach out to me and we could talk about this more in depth. So let's see. we'll go to the next screen. Oops, obviously I need to use the eraser on this. There we go. Okay, so I love this. You can either have a nice evening or you can help your child with their math homework, and you can't have both, right? So what we're going to talk about is math. I don't know if any of you have used Photomath. It's a free app that you can download on your iPad or your iPhone and take a picture of the problem. It could be a handwritten problem or it could be from their math book. And what it does is it walks you through the math problem, since they, you know, there's 6 ways till Sunday to complete a math problem. It does give the multiple ways to solve problems. It is available on Android as well, and it's about $10 a month if you go for the whole package, because what'll happen is it'll show you how to solve some of the problems using multiple methods, but not all of the problems. I will say too, for older kids, they use either this particular app or the next one I'm going to show you, Mathway, just to check their answers because they have to show their work. So I'm going to just go to the next slide. Mathway, this is the same concept as Photomath, okay? You could type or scan the problem. What I really like about this app is it really has not just the basic math, it has linear algebra, chemistry, a lot of different subjects. This one costs a little bit more, but if you think about how much it costs to have a tutor come every week to help your kids with math, you know, it might be a more viable option. But of course, remember that you can always look to Khan Academy. That I would say is like the mainstay for math because they have great YouTube videos. But I do think this does have its place. So this one, with the $20 per month, you get the very detailed instructions. But again, my daughter uses this to check her work in algebra. So let's talk about tech helpers. This is my favorite part. So picture in picture, I'm going to show you how to use this. So we're going to go to the Chrome store. So you type in Chrome. You just search it in Google or whatever, and you'll come up to the Chrome Web Store and you click on extensions. Or you can search. One of the extensions I really like is Cami. I'm going to show you how to use that in a minute. So when I type it in, you're going to see here that this little green band in the upper left-hand corner that I've already added this. And if you look at my browser here, you could see here next to the space bar that this is the little Cami icon, right? It's for PDF and document annotation. So if you want to add a Chrome browser, obviously this would have to be in the Chrome, it would have to be the Chrome browser. So you would just click on it, click Add to Chrome, and then it would appear up here. So that's how you download a Chrome extension. So this one is picture in picture. So let's say your child needs to watch a video and write something about it. So you can click on the video, which you know, like you can't watch the video in another frame. So when you get to the video, like this one's a leadership video, I'm going to hit the little picture in picture icon here. Why is it not working? Oh, this is so funny. Let's see if I can get it. Okay. So funny, it's not showing up. I don't know if it's because I'm presenting, but there's normally like a little, let's go to another. It's so funny, this worked before. It's so funny, I don't know why it's not working. I don't know if it's because I'm presenting, but generally what will happen is when you are on YouTube and you click the Chrome extension, when you go to the next frame, it will appear here in the low, like in the frame, so you can watch the video and take notes at the same time. It does work. I feel terrible. I don't know why it's not working. Well, that's not good.
It's probably because you're presenting right now, Tracy.
That's what I thought. I'm just because it does
likely
work. I think maybe last time I did it from my phone and having both of them, it worked, but I'm sorry about that. But it is good to use in case, you know, they needed to watch something and then, like as I said, take notes. I digress. Okay, so now this is my favorite, Cami. I know definitely K to 5 parents all the way up to seniors in high school get worksheets, right? And nothing's worse than getting a worksheet, having to download it, print it out, have your child write on it, take a picture of it, upload it to Classroom. Cami is something that you can use that you can annotate right on the document and submit it. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So as I said before, you would download, add to one of your extensions, okay? Then you would go into the Classroom. I'm going to pick an assignment here. I think it's this one. Okay, this is a PDF. So what you would do is you would open it. It was the worksheet. So what my daughter did was you open it with Cami. And when you open it with Cami, you can annotate directly on the worksheet. Sorry, this is taking so long to load. So you could see where the worksheet was and then where my daughter annotated on it. So what you can do is use these in the right hand corner to draw you can make if you have a question, you can put a comment in there. You can use, obviously there's an eraser, you could mark it up. And then what happens up here in the right hand corner, you see this little save. There is one for you to save, and this one says resubmit because she already submitted it. But if you were to click on this button, it would actually submit the document to the teacher. So that way it's like a one-step process. They download it to Cami, they do their work and annotate on it, and they submit it right to their teacher. So this, I think, makes it a lot easier. And if we go back to the slide deck here, you could see in this particular example, mine is a document. It's not like math problems. So what you can do is you can highlight and then you could make a comment. So there's a lot of different tools that you can use for this that I think are really helpful. So let's move on. I know we're running out of time because I talk a lot. Okay, so the next one I want to mention is Grammarly. If you've noticed, anybody who has kids in middle school, my middle school, they haven't not been doing a lot with spelling or grammar. So this particular Chrome extension helps your children recognize homophones for sure, and help with like comma placement, punctuation, subject verb agreement, all that stuff. So I think this is definitely good to use. I've downloaded it. I use it to double check like my emails and whatnot. But just be mindful that some district may block this extension. So if that's the case, your child may not be able to use it. Moving on. This is dual lists. This is great because, a lot of times you'll have to have two things open. This could also be like using the picture-in-picture. So this can help split the screen for kids that do not have a Chromebook. However, if your child has a Chromebook, if you utilize Alt plus the little ellipse, I don't know what this little ellipse is called, but if you use the right one, it moves it right, or the left moves it left. And that's helpful for them to, cut and paste things. Otter. This is one of my other favorites. So what's great about Otter, it's like a personal assistant. It records and transcribes in real time up to 40 minutes. So a lecture. You get free 600 minutes a month. You can search. I'm going to make it bigger so you can see it. You can search by keywords. So for your son or daughter, like if they're, honestly, I'm the type of person when I'm in class, I can't take notes and get every single thing the professor says. So that being said, when I use Otter, I can record the lecture and go back and look at it. And what it does is, I do not know why this is taking so long. I'm sorry. But in any event, when you use Otter, like it actually transcribes it in real time. So why is this taking so long? I don't know. I'm just going to hit escape. It actually transcribes it here. I'll just make this big again and show you. So you could see when I recorded actually I think it was a class with a professor, you could see that she recorded, like everything that she said is recorded here. There's search words, and then at the bottom is a play button. And this is so if for some reason it translated the word improperly, you can actually click on the word and click the play button, and you can hear directly what it said. You can also export these notes and place them somewhere, or you could share them with someone. I think it's super helpful. That way, like, that helps with your children's note taking, or for younger kids, if you didn't want to use the text to the microphone on like Google Doc, you could actually use Otter too. The only thing is, if your child is on a Google or a Zoom meet, they need to use Otter on their phone because it won't work. You can't like record on the same screen that you're on a meet. Otherwise, you'd have to upgrade. But I just wanted to mention that because I find it like super helpful. And now we can just quickly wrap it up. Oops. Yep, wrap up. Oops. I think one of the best things to do is have a support group. And if you don't have a support group from like your child's class, especially the younger kids, set up a Facebook Messenger group with parents of, your child's classmates. And if you don't really know anybody, reach out to the teacher and say, listen, I really wanted to see if you could reach out to other parents in the class. Another thing I recommend when you're working from home and you need a little bit of a break is set up a virtual lunch table for your child with don't make it more than like 3 or 4 friends, and like have them sit there and eat their lunch with a friend, which I think is helpful. Have a family meeting so you can discuss how everyone can take part and help out around the house. As I mentioned before, talk with your kids. I think it's easier to get more out of them. Like my one daughter is a vault. It's much easier if I talk with her in the car because she doesn't have to look at me and she knows the ride's going to be over in a finite amount of time. Or you can work on a project together like cooking or doing yard work or whatever. If your child is having a difficult time coping in school, most districts have a school counselor, so make sure you reach out to them. Also, I think kids need to find different ways to express themselves now. So I think if they are participating, like, if they want to journal or art or do some type of, get into a regimen of doing physical activity, I definitely think hiking or doing something in nature is the best way to reduce stress. Like they've shown that in studies that it helps reduce anxiety. And also, if you feel like your children are straining their eyes, you could either get a pair of blue light glasses for them or switch to dark mode, which I think is helpful. And just some other quick resources. I like Common Sense Media because it gives you info not just on parental controls and safety tips. It also gives your children podcasts that they can listen to, which I think is helpful. And they have movie and book reviews. So it tells you what age group it might be for. And I think that's helpful. PBS is always a great resource for articles and tips on things that are going on in the classroom. And that's it. I wanted to open it up. I'm sorry, there's only 3 minutes left, but I was hoping if you had any other questions, please feel free to ask. And if you have to sign off at some point, I'll be more than happy to contact you later. You can always just go on our website here. You can, in the ADP Center, you can contact, there's like a place for contact. I can't see it now because it's so small. But you can actually either email me or set up an appointment with me. And also, if you want to, you could sign up for our emails. Here at the ADP Center website, which is adpcenter.org, and you could join our mailing list if you want to. So I'm going to stop the share and open it up to you guys.
Tracy, before we end, can I highlight, I don't know if Nadine has to hop off. Nadine had a question about the apps for math.
Yeah,
she was asking, is one of them better for geometry, which is a little more visual? Do you know if one of those apps is better than another?
I'm not an expert, but I would probably recommend Mathway, just because I think it's geared more towards older kids. But I think you could probably use both with success. My daughter had geometry last year and she used Mathway, so I can't really comment about Photomath for geometry. I'm sorry, Nadine.
Any other questions for Tracy while we have her here?
And honestly, if any of you have any questions about any other apps, of course, because I couldn't discuss everything, please feel free to reach out to me. You know, this is a support network. I'm happy to support any of you in this, you know, virtual learning experience that we're all in. So as I said, please feel free to reach out to me. I definitely love hearing from moms. So yeah, I do have a few more minutes. I'd be more than happy to meet with you when we're done. Do you pronounce your name Jonita?
Yonida, yes.
Yonida. Thank you. Yeah, sure. I'd be more than happy to. You're welcome, Mary. I see all the comments. Before I didn't have the comments that I could see them all now. Oh, good. I'm glad, Nadine. I'm glad there was a few tips that you could use.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Tracy, for taking the time to talk to us. Thanks, everybody, for signing in. I hope you'll consider our next session in a couple of weeks. Susan Hagen from the graduate school is doing virtual yoga.
Ooh, fun.
And so no experience required. Some people were nervous. You can turn your camera off. I've done the session with her before. It's really helpful just to, you know, breathe and be with it. So I hope you'll consider doing that. But again, thanks to Tracy and River for helping us today.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me, Amy. It's really been fun.
Thank you, everyone.
Everybody stay well.
Thank you too.
Thank you.
You'll need to stay on so I can help you.
Okay, thanks.
Tracy, do you still need me on or?
No, let's just stop the record. Oh, here it is. Now I see it. Okay.